Rita, where were you born?
I was born in Jackson, Mississippi.
In Jackson, Mississippi.
Yes,
I understand you were an Army brat.
I am an Army brat.
So how was that?
It was good because we did travel quite a bit and we saw a lot of good things, but we saw a lot of good places. But I think the most important part was that we were such a family because when we would leave a place, it was only the four of us. My mom, dad, my brother, and me. And it was just the four of us until we got to the next place. And moving around like that, you made friends, but either they were going to leave before you, or and leave you, or you were going to leave before they left. So, it's an interesting life where you have friends all over, and they go deep, but it's like you jump in and then you jump out. So I will say even now that my brother's one of my best friends, because we just saw so much. Yeah, we had each other. Yeah.
So what do you remember about Fort Lee or those early years?
I remember Fort Lee being in kindergarten. I mean, Fort Lee is still there, and I started kindergarten there. And I just remember my dad bought us a TV. Girl, the screen was this big. And the back was this big. And he bought it because when he came home every evening, we were at somebody else's house watching TV. And he wanted us there. And so he bought this TV that it was just so really cool. And we left Fort Lee and went to Germany. And that was early on. I'm talking 53. So the war hadn't been over all that long. And we were in a German school. The Americans were in the upstairs area. The German kids were downstairs, and there were a lot of bombed out buildings. But we traveled quite a bit. And I think for my parents in the early 50's, coming from Mississippi to do the amount of traveling they did was just, I still think about that. And I know that's where my brother and I get a lot of that courage from, even though they didn't see it as courage, So when we left going to Germany, my dad went over first. So we were in Mississippi with my grandmother until it was time. He went over, and we followed him about 5 months later. And we had to take the train. This is 53. We had to take the train to New York and get on a ship. And we were on the ship 14 days. And there wasn't any kind of, wash and wear clothes. So I remember my mom ironing. There was a lot that she did to look out for us. I'm thinking about all the packing she did to take us over there and to be on the water all that time. But she wanted to be with her husband. So that's what we did. We went over there and we got off the ship in Bremerhaven. He picked us up. He met us in Frankfurt. And so we were there for 3 years. And it was great. It was just a really great time.
So tell me what it was like in Jackson, Mississippi in the 50's.
I don't remember as much about the 50's as I do when we came back from Germany, but it was still, it was the late 50's, early 60's. And my mom, we went downtown, and my mom had put water and snacks for us. And we found out later it was because they were only colored water fountains. And she just didn't want us drinking from them, There weren't a lot of places to eat. And to this day, it is amazing to me that we could go to Europe and just have the best time and could go anywhere we wanted. And then we come back to America and we were limited to where we could go. And whether we were in Fort Lee or in California, we had to drive south. So those days were, those were difficult times. Because I remember one time, my dad always wore his uniform because he wanted to be able to get into places for us to eat. And so there was a time when we were in Texas and we saw a sign. It was a lunch room and it said, you're welcome to come in. Anybody can come in. And the guy stopped us at the door because he had a Confederate flag on the door. And he said, wherever you see this, no N-words are allowed. And so my initial association with that flag, with the Confederate flag, was this guy not letting us in.
Yeah.
Another time we were in Dallas, and my mom said, well, let's go to the train station. We can get breakfast there, and we did. We went to the train station. The maitre d', because everything was very formal then, literally walked us through the dining room, the entire dining room, and there was this big dome like the one here in Richmond. And we walked